Shalom, everyone. This is part 4 of HaSfiroth, which is part of an ongoing series on HaSfiroth. If you haven't already seen the previous videos to this series, then I encourage you to go see them first before coming to see this video. So in this video, I'm going to discuss and explain the process of emanation with respect to HaSfiroth, which is a clear reference to the Godhead. Now, I begin this video by discussing, or rather defining, the root and source of this overall emanative process. And so I find it to be most fitting to begin with the mystical Christian Kabbalah in citing what I consider to be, or what I would say is the best definition of Ein Sof and explication of his essence. And so this is found in a book by a very ancient Christian saint and Kabbalist. Now, there are, or I should say there is a scholarly debate, perhaps, as to the true identity of this most ancient Christian saint and Kabbalist. But it is not the purpose of this video to discuss the true identity of this Christian saint slash Kabbalist. All that needs to be known for the purpose of this teaching is that this ancient Christian was indubitably a saint and highly initiated Kabbalist. And so with that said, I shall now proceed to read his most fitting definition of Ein Sof, as it is found in his section in his book entitled Mystical Theology in chapters 4 to 5. It begins, "We say then the cause of all, who is of course Ein Sof, has no shape, nor form, nor quality, nor quantity, nor perceives or is perceived by the senses, neither is it of non-existing or existing things, or do things existing know it as it is, nor does it know existing things qua existing, neither is it darkness, nor light, nor error, nor truth, neither is there any definition at all of it, nor any abstraction." And so what is critical to understand in regards to the essence, the quintessence of Ein Sof, is essentially that he cannot be defined, and in reality, we know nothing of him. We can say nothing of him. And so by repetitiously enumerating these attributes of Ein Sof, he is doing his best to try to explain the quintessence of Ein Sof, which is very, very difficult to do in the first place. How do you define the undefinable? And so we begin to enter the world of supernal paradoxes and antinomies. So now that ye shall have an introductory conception of Ein Sof, let us proceed. To some more points on the esoteric Christian Kabbalah. We read in his same book, in the same section in chapter 1, he states, "Be thy persistent commerce with the mystic visions, leave behind both sensible perceptions and intellectual efforts, and be raised aloft with him who is above every essence and knowledge to the super essential ray of the divine darkness, who is Ein Sof." So this very highly initiated Kabbalist and saint, is encouraging us to reach to the highest limits of divinity, which is Ein Sof. Because it is the nature of most of the Goyim and most people to be acquainted with the lower Elohim or gods. But those holy adepts and initiates and saints who are initiated into the holy mysteries ascend onto higher levels of consciousness, higher levels of reality, and higher levels of divinity. And so it is for this reason that this same author, in the section entitled The Divine Names, chapter 1 in his book, states, "Concerning this, then, as has been said, the super essential and hidden deity, it is not permitted to speak or even think beyond the things divinely revealed to us in the sacred oracles." He is, of course, referring to the ancient Hebrew oracles. And so he continues on in his section, Mystical Theology, in chapter 1, in stating, "But see that none of the uninitiated listen to these things," because, again, we are discussing and explicating the esoteric Kabbalah, the holy mysteries. And as he states in his book, these holy mysteries are only for those who are initiated, and they are not to be profaned by revealing them to the uninitiated. And so we can see here that there is a holy occult tradition that spans thousands of years. And so this leads us to some super essential points. Namely, now, it is most fitting to transition to discussing the historical evolution and progression of HaKabbalah, which is that it has been completely esoteric for thousands of years among a select elite handful. And yes, a handful of early Jewish and Gentile Christians were initiated during the Second Temple period when Yeshua HaMashiach was here, and even going forward after that. And these secret books, these secret ancient Jewish Hebrew Kabbalistic books, have always existed, and they have been highly guarded. And outside these secret books, the Jews and Gentile Kabbalists, they never added writings to these books. That is, that they never wrote these hidden matters in their writings. Because for thousands of years, the Kabbalists have been under a strict divine code of silence. This is the divine mandate. And so, for this reason, it has been hidden and esoteric for thousands of years. However, there were Jewish and Gentile Kabbalists that did allude to the esoteric Kabbalah in their writings implicitly and subtly. And so while they were under a strict code of silence and were not allowed to discuss or write about these esoteric holy matters to the uninitiated or to the profane, they did nevertheless allude to it very implicitly and subtly in their writings. Some examples would include, of course, Dionysius the Areopagite, who I just cited, Gregory of Nyssa, and the Ramban, and there are many others. And it was in the 1200s, by decree of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, that the esoteric Kabbalah was to be unveiled, and indeed it was unveiled by the most elite and superior Kabbalistic Jewish masters of that generation. And it was done through a principal treatise known as Sefer HaZohar. So for the first time, in thousands of years, by the command of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the esoteric Kabbalah, all of the esoteric knowledge and wisdom, was committed to writing and was permitted to all of the Jews, all of the Israelites. And this was done by the most initiated saints and Rabbanan, or Jewish masters of that generation. Why? Because as it is written in our ancient divine oracles, and as is confirmed in the New Testament, the ancient holy oracles were given to us Jews, and we safeguarded and preserved them. And this is why Shaul, in his writing, states, "What then is the superiority of the Jew? Indeed, much in every way, for the oracles were transmitted to us, not to anyone else. And we are the gatekeepers of this knowledge and wisdom." But even now, much of the voracious esoteric Kabbalah has still been lost to antiquity. So, lamentably, we do not possess all of the ancient esoteric Kabbalah, but only a portion. A significant portion, that is. A significant portion that for now suffices. Now we may proceed to the process of emanation of HaSfiroth. As I stated in a previous video, it is encoded in HaTorah through a simple parable. It is encoded through the parable of the generation of the family of Israel. And so we find that Israel represents upper Chokhmah, or wisdom, and Jacob represents lower Chokhmah. And Israel marries Leah, who represents upper Chokhmah. And so Israel and Leah would then represent the first two emanations. They are the divine father and mother within the Godhead. And they emanate 6 sons, which are the 6 emanations, and 1 daughter, which is Dinah. And so then they emanate the lower 7 emanations, or the lower 7 Sfiroth. And it is also important to understand that Jacob also simultaneously represents the 6th son, or all 6 sons, as one. And Rachel also simultaneously represents Dinah, who is the last emanation. And so when we do the addition, we arrive at a total of 9 emanations, which through Im Kolel, or with the sum, becomes 10 Sfiroth. Now, these divine equations that equate Jacob with all 6 emanations and Rachel with the daughter, Dinah, is a highly mystical matter, and it is a very great secret. Nevertheless, what is important to understand is that Israel represents our supernal father, who is in union with the supernal mother, who is Leah, and Jacob represents the supernal son, who is in union with the supernal daughter, which is Rachel. As above, so below. Now we proceed to Zohar, or Sefer HaZohar, and what it has to say regarding the process of emanation. Now, it should be known that Sefer HaZohar has many folios contained within it that discuss the process of emanation in a very highly complex and mystical manner. And it is beyond the ken of this video to properly give a full treatment to all of these esoteric sections within Sefer HaZohar that are very comprehensive in nature and discussing this very complex, divine, mystical process of emanation. However, what I will do in this video is introduce this process as it is according to HaZohar. So we begin with, again, the source and the root of this emanative process, which is Ein Sof. And on this matter, in Sefer HaZohar, in Book 1, Folio 15a, it states, "Through the head of the decree of the king, He engraved pure engravings above, a spark of impenetrable darkness within the concealed from the head of Ein Sof, unformation bound, inserted into a signet ring, no color at all. As a cord line birthed luminous colors, it split and did not split its aura until under the impact of splitting, a single concealed point illuminated above. Behind this point, nothing is known at all, so it is called Reshith, beginning. Now, the first point I will make is that this is my English translation of the underlying Aramaic. And from there, it's important to understand that what the Zohar is stating here is that well, it's describing, of course, this emanative process from Ein Sof. So the first point is that the Keen here represents Ein Sof. So again, what it is attempting to do is explain this highly complex and mystical divine process in the form of a parable. And so here the Keen represents Ein Sof. And it begins with darkness. The darkness is in reference to the unknowable nature and essence of Ein Sof. And we again have to, it has to give divine paradoxes, as in unformation bound, inserted into a signet ring. Again, this is a very highly mystical paradox, right? Unformation bound, inserted into a signet ring. It's using very nice poetic language to encode these supernal mysteries and these complex mystical processes. Now, this concealed point represents the first emanation of the HaSfiroth, which is represented by the first letter of the Tetragrammaton, which is the letter Yod. Now, let us proceed to another reference to this emanative process, which is found in Sefer Zohar Chadash, in the section Matnitin, which is Aramaic for our Mishnah, in folio 121D. Again, this is my English translation of the underlying Aramaic, which reads, through purity, through the head of the decree of the Keen, 9 glyphs were engraved in pure revolutions, and one is concealed and unknown. Now, if you were to read Matt Pritzker's English translation of this folio, he has, instead of in pure revolutions, in dazzling concatenations, which I would say is a satisfactory translation of the underlying Aramaic, but not the best translation, because the underlying word there for revolution is Gilgul, which literally means revolutions. And it's very important to make the point in the translation of revolutions that these are pure revolutions, because these HaSfiroth are represented mathematically by circles, divine circles, which are revolving. And so this is the source and root of these circular diagrams, for HaSfiroth. And we will get into more detail on this very momentous point in later videos. Now, again, the Keen is Ein Sof, who emanates 9 emanations, and the unknown Sphira mentioned is the first, or the whole HaSfiroth, or Godhead, which is through Im Kolal, right? This is a very, very important point to make, because there are many modern Jewish Kabbalists, there have been for the past 500 years, many modern Jewish Kabbalists who have erroneously equated the first emanation with Ein Sof. And this is a blasphemous error of the highest order. So let us continue now to the esoteric understanding of the first verse of HaTorah according to the Zohar, right? According to the Zohar, the first word Bereshith can be read as the beginning, which represents the first emanation, which is our Heavenly Father. And Elohim then would represent the second emanation, which represents the mother, which represents the second letter of the Tetragrammaton represents, which is He. And this is as it is written in the same folio just cited, that with this Reshith, or beginning, the unknown concealed one created the palace, which is called Elohim. And in ancient Hebrew, the words palace and house have a feminine connotation in reference to a woman or a wife. This, of course, is confirmed later on in the same folio, where it states, within that palace, the point, which represents the beginning, or the first emanation, which is masculine, sowed the seed of 3 points. So the point is masculine, and it is sowing seed in the palace, which represents the holy divine matrix. And these 3 points, according to the Zohar, are the vowel points that are in reference to the Hebrew letter Waw, which would be the Hebrew vowel points, or nekudim, which are cholam, shurek, and kibbutz. And again, the sun, the third letter of the Tetragrammaton, is represented by the letter Waw. And so really what the folio is saying is that the first emanation, Yod, which is masculine, is sowing the seed of the sun, Waw, in his wife, which is the holy matrix, or the supernal mother. And so Kabbalistically then, what it is really doing is it is reading the first 3 words of HaTorah on a very, very mystical, esoteric manner. It is giving us, say, the 5th or 6th level of interpretation of this verse, which is read as, the beginning created Elohim. Now, I have already given the 7th level of interpretation of this verse, which is the most esoteric, mystical interpretation of this verse, in one of my previous videos on HaSfiroth, right? This verse can be understood as, in the beginning, he created. That is, he created as a reference to Ein Sof, creating Elohim, which is a reference to the Sfiroth, all 10 Sfiroth, or the entire Godhead. But on another level of interpretation, it can also be read as the beginning, which is the first emanation, created Elohim, which is the second emanation. And then the heavens would represent the 6 sons, or emanations, as one unity, and then the earth would represent the only begotten daughter. So the beginning is the subject of the verse, created is the verb, and then Elohim is the first object. And then the heavens and the earth are the next objects. And so if you were to fully read the folio 115a in Zohar, if you were to fully read that entire folio, you would come out with this understanding, with this very mystical understanding of this verse, of this first verse of the Torah in Sefer Bereshith. And if you were to fully read the other folios that I cited in the Zohar, again, you would come with a very full understanding of the entire emanative process. But unfortunately, to fully go into, to give a full treatment to all of the sections in the Zohar that, fully outline this highly complex and comprehensive emanative process is well beyond the ken of this video. As I stated earlier, the point of this video was simply to provide an introduction into this very complex emanative process. So with all of that said, I can only hope now that you will further your initiation, if you haven't already, in fully understanding this highly complex and divine mystical knowledge and wisdom of HaSfiroth. Shalom.